Tony, I'll start with the receivers that you guys added in this class, the three, Josiah, Dylan, and Isaiah. Mm-hmm. Was that a need for you guys at that position, and what do you like about those three wide receivers?
Yeah, I think in college football nowadays, wide receivers that can go make plays are a need for everybody. But just, Isaiah was the first one that committed, came to camp, and you saw is his length and athleticism, catch radius. Really had an impressive showing at our camp during the summer. And then, Dylan was a guy that we had our eye on and wanted to challenge him to kind of put himself in position for us to be able to give him an opportunity, and super proud of him because we probably challenged him more from an academic standpoint than anybody in the class. And, man, he accepted the challenge. And if you just go look at the monster season that he had this year, and he runs, he's got deceptive speed for his size, but what I really like about him is just his ability to go attack the football. He's an extreme competitor, which I think is going to bring, some toughness to the room. And then Josiah is just an electric guy that can do a lot of things. And so what I like is kind of a mixture. You got a little bit of everything in all three. And I think as you build your offense and build that receiver room, you want to have versatility because every plan is going to require different skill sets. And I feel like we added three first, just really, really quality young men that are coming from good football backgrounds, highly competitive programs, so they know what it takes to win. And I think they're also good personality fits for who we are here.
You've added a pair of quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Obviously, those commitments were before Anthony left. So does the plan change? Were you always anticipating going after a veteran portal guy, or what's the plan there?
Yeah, so first the two guys that are coming to join us. Cole, very, very good athlete, and unfortunately, had the hand injury this season, so it was cut short. But man, the guy's out there trying to go play receiver, do whatever he can for his football team with a broken hand. And so the athleticism, the competitor, that's what we fell in love with in the beginning. So excited about him. And Bjorn was a guy that we got on a little bit later in the recruiting process because we knew we were going to take two in that class. Being the current situation at that time, and man, he had a monster season down there in Florida, and really I think we had to work hard to keep some of the bigger guys off of him, so to speak. But super excited about them. They're a little bit different, but they complement each other well, and excited for those guys to get here in the summer and compete. And unfortunate situation with AC. The intention was never, with the decision that I made, was never to get him to even entertain and think about the portal. I was planning on him coming back and being the guy for us going forward. But man, things change. So now we will have to go and look and find a veteran guy in the portal. We're going to be aggressive from that standpoint because I think we got a lot to sell. I wish AC well. He's leaving here in good terms, so there's no bad blood from my perspective. But it's just unfortunate that the intent was not for AC to leave the program. I was excited about getting back to work this off season and helping to get him to a place of getting his confidence back at the highest level. Also, I knew that I have a responsibility this offseason to go put some more pieces in place around him. But unfortunately, we'll be doing that with another veteran quarterback through the portal process.
Considering that, do you need to consider two portal court? What's the plan on the board there?
Well, you got so we still got Gavin, and we brought Gavin in, and obviously Gavin's kind of been in the wings waiting because we had Tony. So we had Tony and AC, and we're looking at several different options. The biggest thing is trying to find two guys that want to come in and battle. May be difficult. You're still trying to figure out who's all going to be available. So I think it's going to be determined by who's available and kind of what the parameters are around for securing those guys. But we're definitely going to be aggressive, not just at quarterback, but in other positions of need this cycle in the portal.
And if you look at the class, a lot of in-state kids, especially in the 804, really highlighted that area. That was an area that you said you really wanted to kind of grab and make keep those kids home. What does this say about the movement and the progress you guys have made to keep guys like that home?
Yeah, I think it's progress, and man, I wanna get guys from the 804. I want to go to 757. I want to go up into Northern Virginia. I want all of the best players to stay in the state of Virginia, and we understand the work that we got to do. Like, we got to make them want to stay. And I think this is a good step in a direction. I feel like we hit on the right players, because again, as many as you want to stay, it's still got to be about fit. Make sure that it's a fit, and 6 guys, and we went after more. There were several other guys that we battled, and obviously we lost a couple of in-state battles to some high-profile guys, and we also lost some out-of-state battles as well. But we're going to try and keep the best players in the state of Virginia, and I'm excited about kind of the direction we're heading this offseason, and hopefully we can just make a compelling argument. We got the academics. I know what we got to do as a program from a football standpoint, the new facility. I think, going forward, we have an even stronger, component of things to be able to sell to keep these guys home.
You added one more today, but 18 total. It's kind of been the class for a while. Is this the size class that you were hoping for? And just looking at the amount of seniors leaving, just how many rooms does that leave when kind of as you move past this day for a transfer portal or whatever?
Yeah. So right now we're in the process of having exit meetings with all of our players on the roster, and it's, you never know, right? Like, there's guys that when I came in the door, I was intentional to make sure that we did the right thing by them, and now they've gotten to a point of graduation, and we'll have hard conversations, which will open up some spots. And then I'm sure there's going to be some guys that I'm wanting to come bring back that feel like they want another opportunity. So in terms of the size of the portal class, that'll be determined over the next really few days as we finish up these meetings, as the portal gets ready to open on the 9th. I still want to be as much developmental as possible. I think this year is going to be a little bit different just because of the timing, right? So this is the end of year 3, and several of the guys that were already here on the roster will now be graduates of the University of Virginia, which I think is the right thing, and was the right thing to do, and is the right thing to continue to do. Is guys that were committed here earlier, make sure that we can fulfill our obligation by getting them to graduation, but that's going to open up some more spots. So each year is going to be different. I do want to be a developmental program. However, man, the landscape is changing so fast, and it's hard to be developmental if you lose your developmental guys, right? So if I got developmental guys that are leaving, right, it's hard to go get the exact, replace it with the exact situation, right, based off timing, right? So if I lose guys now, it's hard to replace that by February with a high school kid, right? So you got to supplement with your roster. But we will have a few more portal guys than normal, and a lot of that is just because of now this is the natural time of attrition for some of the guys that were here when we took over.
You mentioned the 757.
Mm-hmm.
You got one guy in Spence, the defensive back. What can you tell me about him? And then what can you tell me in general about that region, the strength of it this year, and what you found there?
Yeah, so Spence, one of our first defensive commits, and he's long. He's got a lot of length, very athletic. Had to play some quarterback this year out of team necessity. I think he's got a ton of upside as a corner. A lot of room to grow there with his athleticism and his length, but then also with his frame. And he could easily continue to grow and be a hybrid guy that can play a little bit of safety and some corner. But tremendous athlete, a ton of length. Coming from a highly competitive area down there, brings a little bit of swag with him as well. Which the kind of the 757 is known for. Just that brand of football that they play down there. So really excited about him. And the 757, man, there's a ton of players. And, we went after, one of the top offensive linemen in the country down there, and kind of made the final 3, and then weren't able to finish there. And then a couple of receivers. And there's just a ton of talent down there. But what I got to do is in this program, we just got to make it to where they believe that they can be successful by coming to UVA. And there's been examples in the past, and we have to deliver on like Anthony Britton. has to be successful here. And so when he's successful, I think that helps us, to break down any kind of misconceptions about opportunities here. But there's a ton of players down there, and hopefully, this next cycle we'll be able to, not only, tap into the 804, but really entice some guys from the 757 to come this way.
In addition to Tech got, the 3 guys out of Green Run, you get the kid out of Kempsville, but a lot of Maryland, Clemson, other programs fishing that area. I know that's always been the case. How does that change the recruiting battle when it's not a bunch of in-state schools that you're really the most worried about?
Yeah, and it's changing. It's like year to year, right? So the first time I set up here, it was like, man, we got to keep North Carolina out of here, right? We got to keep North Carolina out of Virginia. We got to keep Penn State out of Virginia. Now South Carolina, Clemson, Maryland. But one, it's just a testament to the quality of the football in the state and the caliber of the talent. But it's gonna and really. It's changing because of the dynamics of college football, right? So now territories are not, as significant as they once were because there's just different ways of recruiting, right? So now we're going to have to battle off everybody. And yes, and I talked about it with Pry, and yeah, we'd love to just put a fence around our state and just let us battle for the top guys and keep everybody out, but that's going to be impossible. So each prospect and each year is going to just bring different opportunities. But the good thing is there's confirmation that we got the right type of talent in the state. And as I told the staff and I went through it, my early years at Clemson, man, you're gonna get your nose bloodied, right? But you got to fight the fights. Right, you got to fight your fights, even if you're gonna get your nose bloody. But that's the only way that we're gonna get better. And so it's been fun to watch the staff too. Get into some of those battles and fight and scrap for the guys in our state. But we're talking about Clemson, South Carolina this year. Man, who knows? It could be Texas, USC next year. Heck, USC came in and got one of the top running backs in the state. Would love to have kept him home. And then with the internet and technology, like the kids now, their allegiances aren't quite what they used to be, right? And that's where we got to make progress. And one thing I do fear a little bit about kind of the direction that it's heading is just the involvement of the high school head coach, right? So in our sport, it's still there, but with each cycle that goes by, right, it's going to be a lot more external folks involved in the process. And I think when that's the case, then you're going to see just more different brands from all over the country coming into the state. Mm-hmm.
You guys are going to have, I think, around 8 guys early enrolling.
Yeah, 6. We were hoping to hit on a couple today. I don't know how that's going to turn out, but right now we got 6.
6. So how much are you happy to get those guys, and any of those guys you feel like can make an early impact for you?
Yeah, so super excited to get those guys. Wish we had a few more, but because of the importance of spring ball, right, and certain positions. But Jim, it's going to be huge for Jim, on the offensive line to have a chance to get in here mid-year. With Tyler leaving, it's going to be big for Justin, to come in at tight end. And then obviously we got some guys like Carson still coming back from surgery. Sage is still coming back from surgery. So he's going to get a ton of reps, which is going to be huge for us to help build the depth. Sean, to get him in here and get him rolling, because typically the hardest transition to this level is in the trenches. Offensive line, defensive line. So when you got an offensive lineman and you got a defensive lineman coming in mid-year, that's going to be huge. Corey, I think, is Koshner is going to really help us on the back end. So excited about those. And then we got the 2 receivers that are coming in Josiah and Dylan will be here mid-year. So to get those guys rolling, it's going to help them immensely because in essence, when you come in mid-year, you're getting 15 practices, you're getting all the off season, you're getting the strength and conditioning. So it's almost like you've had an additional year before you ever even get to fall camp. But super excited and happy for them. Each year it's a different perspective. Some schools, they don't allow, for mid-years. I think you're going to probably see that trend a little bit more from the high school ranks with the portal, right? You're going to see more of the high school guys just trying to secure spots on rosters by getting there early. But I think the receivers got a chance to up the level of competition. Big for Zames just to get the experience, Jim get his feet wet, and then with Sean and Corey, those are probably the two that I think with just the amount of need at their spot, it's going to be huge for us.
How has working with the collective during the recruiting process changed since Virginia changed some of the laws in the state?
Yeah, I mean, prior to the change, it was a great working relationship with Lowe and all his folks at Cat Futures, but now it just it makes it easier to feel like, okay, man, we can have these conversations. Like, we're not breaking any rules. They're able to have more information, right, to make their decisions, right, because there's a specific aspect of the conversation that is determined by them. That's not determined by me, right? And so to know that you got a close working relationship and that everything is above board, we're doing it the right way. We're not at a disadvantage, right, from anybody else because of the way the law is set up. I mean, it's just in general, like with the way it is, like that's a part of the conversation. Like they want to talk to me, they want to talk to the position coach, but they also want to talk to the collective because that's just where we are in college football. And so it's huge to be able to have them, readily accessible, right, informed, and ready to have those conversations to help secure, prospects for us.
I was going to say, with how fast the portal can move, is that extra crucial the next couple of weeks as those kids have to make decisions quickly?
Yeah, it's critical. And again, it's for many years you had your process when you brought a prospect into campus on an official visit. You showed them academics, you showed them strength and conditioning, you showed them nutrition, you showed them football, you did all of that, and now like you got to have the collective piece as well, ready to go. So having them available and accessible, in real time is critical because depending upon where a young man is in his football career is going to determine like the type of conversations. So undergrad guys' conversation is going to be a little bit different than a grad transfer that's got 1 year. Right, so a grad transfer that's got 1 year, he's not looking for the wine and dine. Like he wants to know, okay, what really matters, right? Do I have an opportunity to compete? Can you develop me for this 1 year? And then from a business standpoint, does it make sense, right? And that's where the collective comes into play. And you're dealing with all those different types of young men. So you got to have all of those things ready, available. At moment's notice, right? Because the way the rule is I know there's a lot of guys making their intentions known, but not all those guys are in the portal yet. So there's no communication that should be taking place, right? And we're going to do it right. Like so we're prepared and ready, getting all of our information and all of our background work done, so that when the button is hit, we're ready to go. But I can't say that that's the case everywhere. But I know how we're going to do it. But we got to be ready.
Can you talk a little bit about the 3 offensive linemen?
Yeah.
And excuse me, were you happy with that number, or did you hope to get more? Or?
Yeah. So, and this is where it gets really tricky from a roster management standpoint, right? I know we got the settlement looming and changes to roster limits and scholarship numbers, but right now I got 85. Right, and you can only replace what you lose, right? And then you can only replace depending upon when they leave, right? So, for example, like Brian Stevens is leaving, right? So he's done, eligibility's done, he's done with school, he's leaving in January. I can replace his spot, right? Ty Furnish, let's say Ty Furnish is leaving, but he doesn't graduate till May. I can't replace his spot until the summer, right? So you're trying to play the numbers game, right? And then you're also trying to plan for any attrition for older veteran guys that you can attract in the portal. So the number for us was 3. We felt that was the sweet spot from a high school standpoint. And then anything else after that, we would address, when the portal opens. So I feel like we really hit it on the head when we talk about these guys. John Adair, man, he's got the prototypical body. Man, he looks exactly how you want him to look as a tackle, right? And he's also, pretty developed, as a high school guy. Still got room to grow, so he's not maxed out. But body type wise, and then an upside from an ability standpoint, and perfect fit. Man, perfect fit for the University of Virginia in an offensive lineman. So we're super excited about John, and then Grayson. Man, Grayson is we've been looking for a athletic center for the future. And if you go watch this guy, man, he's probably one of the best athletes in this group, right? And regardless of position, man, this guy plays wide out, he kicks, he throws, he does everything. So he's a super dynamic athlete. And one of the things I think helped us early on is kind of he was on that fringe, from a height standpoint, but he's grown a little bit and he's stretched out. And I think that he's going to be awesome as a athletic center in the future. And then Big Jim Harris is a guy that can play tackle or guard, right? So he gives us some flexibility there, and he'll be here this summer. So a big jumbo athlete, right, with some really good growth potential. So I feel like from a high school standpoint, if you're looking at developmental guys, that we hit on the right type of developmental guys to get in our program and start building for the future. And then as we finish up these meetings, any more attrition that we have will be addressed in the portal. So I didn't want to just, because the problem is like these guys are going to be really good players. I can project and say maybe they'll be ready to play as freshmen. I hope they are, but they're developmental guys, right? And so we're going to need some experience, and so that's why we sat on the number of 3, and then said anything else that we do will be more veteran guys in the portal.
Can you just address how you guys are greeted now in the high schools around the state as compared to when you first got here, and you gaining the trust of high school coaches, and just
I believe so.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I believe it's improving, and I think a lot of it is the consistency of just showing up, right? Just showing up and being present, and whether there's a player there or not. And that was something that I said from day one. I want the coaches to visit every school in the state at least once during the year, during the calendar year, whether there's a prospect there or not, to start building those relationships. And I think, as they watch from afar, if they don't have a player here, they can not only hear the message, but they see it, transpiring in our guys. And then anybody that has a player that's on our roster that's in state, when they go home, they can get confirmation of, hey, Coach Elliott and the staff, they're doing, what they said they were going to do. That they're developing these guys athletically, they're supporting them academically, but they're also investing in these young men holistically beyond those 2 other areas to help them have the best experience, possible while here at UVA. So I think the relationships are improving, and we got to continue to work every single day. And I think the biggest thing is when we bring a young man in, and again, I know we're talking in-state, but really everywhere, with every high schooler or even transfer guy that comes in, that they feel like they were treated fair, they were treated well, and they have a good experience. And so when you go out, there is a different, there isn't like a look of, oh man, UVA's coming into school. It's almost, now they know you by name. And when you go into a school and they know you by name, then obviously the relationship, has a chance to grow and develop.
When you bring in 2 quarterbacks in the same class, what's the challenge in that? And just kind of, because obviously only one guy can be on the field at the end of the day as you plan out roster wise.
Yeah, you just got to be honest. Give them a fair opportunity to compete, and let them go compete. And I think, we had a great example in Tony Muskett, and what it really should be, all about. And as big of a competitor that he is, man, and even though he only started 1 game for us this year, he had a tremendous impact, on our roster. And I met with him this morning, and I told him that. I said, I don't think you can understand and comprehend, what you did for this program in the way that you conducted yourself. And so both of these guys knew we were on the front end. We said we were going to bring in 2 quarterbacks. In the old days, you wanted to keep 5 on the roster, right? And times have changed a little bit. So I think you still got to protect your roster. And both of these guys are going to have a legitimate opportunity to compete. And wherever the chips fall, they fall. And, hopefully, they'll just continue to battle all the way till the end. But you don't know until then, but I know one thing is these are 2 really good young men that are passionate about joining our program. And so I'm excited to get them here this summer, and let's start the developmental process to get them in position to both be able to go compete at a high level, and then evaluate it fairly, and hopefully, like even with AC and Tony over the last 2 years, they see that I'm going to be fair, and I'm not going to try and play favorites or games. Like I'm going to try and make the best decision for the program and be fair with these guys, be honest with these guys, and I think that's really all you can ask.
Do you have I know you're still going through meetings and everything. Do you have an idea positionally what you're going to look at in the transfer portal?
We're going to look at pretty much every position, right? I think there's potential need and opportunity at all positions, and some more so than others. But we're going to evaluate every position and be ready and prepared for a run at some of the best in the country. And I think that we've laid a foundation for the last couple of years, and I think that we got a great nucleus of guys that'll be returning in 25. And now we need to go we've gotten our nose bloodied a little bit. Now let's go fight some more battles and see can we supplement. So we'll be looking at every position but now we may not end up signing one at every position, but I have the staff, the coaches and the scouting folks looking for every position on the roster to see what's out there, to know what's out there, and then if the opportunity, because again, the opportunity may present itself 5 days after the portal opens, right? I may go through all of these meetings, and I think back to one in particular. I went through a meeting and we had a plan together and everything was good, and man, we're going to go battle, and it's coming back, and then boom, a week later, I get a notification via compliance that the young man jumped in the portal, right? So we got to be ready and prepared. So we got to plan for a plan, I guess you'd say. We got to have a plan for a plan, I guess. I don't know what the right way to describe it is, but we just got to be ready because it's just the nature of the business right now.
One more on those quarterbacks. Yeah. Are they similar skill sets, different? And in your recruiting philosophy, do you want similar, or do you want two different guys to develop in different directions? What's the strategy?
I think they're a little bit different in their skill sets, which complements each other very well. Also, I think what that does is it allows them to push each other and make each other better, right? Because they can force each other to kind of improve in the areas where the other one may, have a little bit more of a strong suit. So I think they're a little bit different. And in terms of skill set, one thing, the first thing is you got to be able to play quarterback, right? You got to be able to think as a quarterback, manage the game as a quarterback, be able to make all of the throws. And then, from an athleticism standpoint, that's a bonus. You got to have the minimum ability to get yourself out of trouble. You can't, just be completely stationary in the pocket. But for me, the biggest thing is the ability to play quarterback. Can you lead, right? Can you manage the system? Can you make all the throws? And then the it factor, the wow factor, will be determined, by your athleticism.
Signing day week is also a time that we sometimes see changes in coaching staff. Do you anticipate any changes on your staff?
I don't anticipate any right now. And again, I've been very, very critical of myself, first and foremost. Starts with me, and then just evaluating from the standpoint of relationships to ability to put the players in the right positions. Do you consistently put them in an advantageous numbers situation or angle situation for them to be successful? Now, again, somebody could walk in and say, "Hey, Coach, I got this opportunity that I want to look at," and again, I'm all about that, right? I'm all about trying to develop the staff, and only thing I ask is just make sure that it's a better situation, right, and not just a lateral move. But I don't anticipate. I haven't heard anything from any of my coaches. I'm going to continue to evaluate. And again, we're about a few days postseason, but right now I don't anticipate any changes.
With the changing landscape, it's probably really hard to figure out a right routine going into each year, because I think every single year you've been here, there's been a change either to the calendar, how you approach it. But with Virginia specifically, and how you recruit to Virginia, how have you kind of adopted your mentality with recruiting to Virginia, with the changing, especially with the portal and just the challenges there? How have you kind of changed?
Yeah, that's going to kind of be core, standard, inside out. That's where we're going to start. So I want to make sure from the high school standpoint, man, we visit every school. Man, we identify early who the top players are, start establishing a relationship, as quickly as possible. So even with the landscape changing, the philosophy of being inside out doesn't change. So we're going to start with, Virginia, and then we kind of, consider like the DMV area in state. So that with all of the state of Virginia, that's where we start. And then, being very open-minded in terms of guys that have left the state, especially guys that left the state prior to me taking over, being open to giving those guys, some priority when it comes to transferring back in, and then everything else will kind of adjust from there. But I want to stay inside out, and that's just a core philosophy of mine that I believe in is the right way to do it, and that's how we're going to do it.
Early on in this cycle in January, it was the first time that coaches were allowed to talk to kids when you go into visits.
Yeah.
You had to kind of go in there covertly and
That's
kind of
right.
leave. How was that big of a benefit for you guys, especially for this early contact? Like Montina Williams, I think the whole staff went to his basketball game. So how much did that kind of help kind of get inroads like that?
Yeah. So one, man, it takes a lot of pressure off of me as a head coach when I go into a school, because obviously you're probably the most recognizable face, right? When you walk into a school, and you may have just a kid that's not even an athlete, that is a fan, that wants to come up and say hello, take a picture. And in the past, you're like, I can't have any interaction with any high school level kid, much less a student athlete that we're recruiting. So it takes a lot of pressure off that. You just feel like, okay, you're not a criminal, right? You just like, I can legitimately, it's legal for me to talk. But then also too, it just gives you an opportunity to get a better feel for a young man, right? Because you can have a quick 5-minute conversation, and usually in that conversation you can kind of get a good indication, like, this is a young man that I think is a fit, like he's looking for what we have to offer, or you can say this probably not. So it helps us to be able to weed through some of that. And then actually it was very beneficial last cycle, because for the guys that did not take official visits in the summer to your school, you know what I'm saying, you may have been able to talk to them January before to know who they were, or you didn't get them on your campus. So there's going to be some schools that are essentially signing kids blind, unless you had them during the season, and in-season visits are very, very difficult. So it just gives us an opportunity to get a good head start on building a relationship, because again, I think the high school cycle, unfortunately, is going to speed up. Right, and you're gonna have to, in January, have a good idea of what your list is gonna look like, and it's just awesome to be able to have a conversation, for 5 minutes with a young man, to be able to get a feel, as opposed to, the old rule where you could have absolutely no interaction with the young man when you went to school in January. And I think now they're also gonna add potentially for coaches to do home visits, right? Which, it's awesome. But also too, like, it puts a big strain on the work week and the quality of life of a coach, right? Because now you're trying to hit every school, see every prospect, and you're doing home visits till 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then you're traveling to your next destination to get in place to be at a school at 7 in the morning, especially if you're taking the head coach, because the head coach can't do a home visit. So the only time I could talk to him is in the school. So, man, it's going to put a strain on the assistant coaches, and the logistics around, making all of that happen. Because now that you can do those things, you want to make sure you get in front of the right guys, which also puts a strain on relationships, because how can you consistently get in the schools that may not have a player there's a lot of dynamics, right, that I think, people on the outside don't quite understand, just how much coordination, communication, planning takes place for you to get a good head start on a class in January.
Say it's been back-to-back years that you guys have gone up to Deerfield Academy to get some players. What's the benefit when you're going back to schools to get kids from within the same program?
Yeah, first and foremost, it's awesome that the program has the caliber of players that we desire. But just I think the relationship, and then obviously when you recruiting a young man and you can go in there in January and talk to the younger guys, you're able to establish that relationship earlier, and then the young man that's in your program can give confirmation to his former teammates. And then obviously that's a school that naturally is just a seamless transition to the environment here at UVA. So it helps a lot when the school has those caliber players spread out through multiple classes, but then you also when you get one of them and he's having a good experience, that's your biggest recruiting tool. I know the coaches get a lot of credit, and I'm talking about these guys on this list, and you're asking questions about them, but the real recruiters are the guys in the locker room, right? That's your best recruiters, and the way that they recruit the best for you is them having a good positive experience.
You got two linebackers in this class, Justin Rose and Isaiah Reese, both quiet guys. But what kind of stood out about them, especially Justin Rowe, who had to deal with all the stuff of Hurricane Helene and that recovery too?
Yeah, so we'll start with Justin. First he's got a very unique story, being from Canada, boarding down in Asheville, and I remember the first time I went into school and had a chance to see him, and just his frame. Was watching a workout, very explosive. I think he was, 36-inch plus vertical, with his workouts. Played multiple positions, so you saw him with the ball in his hand, and you saw him making tackles on defense. Team was very successful this year, and then had to persevere through the adversity. I remember, talking to him, as he's getting ready to leave Asheville to go back to Canada for a couple of weeks, not knowing, if his season was gonna resume. So just super happy he was able to do that, but also is a testament to the character of not just him, but that program, to be able to come back and put it all together and go, win at a very, very high level. 4.0 student. And really he wanted to be at UVA because originally it was an interesting story. We were taking two linebackers, and we really were like down to our top three on the board, and one had called and committed the week before, so we were down to one spot, and I remember that one was on a visit getting ready to commit, and then Justin's calling at the same time, like, hey, I want to come. And so it essentially it was like, hey, we got to talk about it as a staff, because I got to protect the numbers. We said 2, now we got 3 wanting to jump in the boat. And just after talking with the staff, they were like, no, like find a way. And so I said, hey, we'll take you as an oversign, kind of just the next best available player. Ended up, where a young man decommitted from us and went elsewhere. And so then we just stuck with the 2. But he wanted to be, at UVA, and he was at the top of our list of the prospects above the black line that we wanted. So it was awesome to get him. And then, Mr. Reese, I went up there and saw him for the first time. One, I fell in love with his tape. You watch him on tape, and he does everything for his team. Like, he's playing running back, he's playing linebacker, he's returning kicks, he's doing a little bit of everything. And then when I had a chance to go up there, and this is the benefit of being able to sit down with a young man, so I was able to sit down with him and his mom and get a good understanding of his background. He's another young man that's boarding away from home, so a lot of maturity, but he also loves ball. And then he's being challenged academically at the school that he's at. So immediately fell in love with him. Those were the guys, and it's always a challenge when you put the top 3 guys on your list, right? And you actually have a chance to get all the top guys. And he was up there. Him and Justin were up there along with another young man. So, man, I'm excited about the athleticism, that they're bringing. They both got good growth potential. Good explosiveness, and just I think it helps us from an athletic standpoint to be able to go sideline to sideline, because in this league and in college football nowadays, like, people want to run the ball, but they want to throw it too, and everything is going sideways. So I'm excited about those 2 linebackers.